Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Supernova. Supernova is brought to you by Pandora Games. It's for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and games range anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. A star is dying. You will send your fleet of 4 spaceships on a suicide mission to harvest as much energy as possible from the star's final hours, sending it through a wormhole as a lifeline to your civilization. As the star dies, it becomes more dangerous, but also releases more energy. Will your sacrifice be enough? The goal of the game is to guide your 4 ships towards the center of the board, where they will orbit the dying star at the distance you choose. The closer you get, the better chances you have to be the first to collect the valuable energy bursts it emits. But the more precarious your position will be, because the star's fluctuating gravity is always drawing your ships closer. You will also need to continually boost your orbits in order to avoid burning up. You'll need to maneuver your ships into an optimal formation to block and relocate your opponents, protect yourself from them and from dangerous energy bursts, and to collect this energy for yourself. The player who ends the game with the most victory points in the form of yellow and red energy bursts wins the game. Each player is going to be receiving a player board and a set of ships. Now the ships are going to be starting on the very most outer edge of the spiral, spiraling out from the sun. And all the energy bursts are going to emanate from the middle of the board, moving out towards you. Now there's also star cards, and they're kind of a countdown. You've got red, you've got yellow, and white. And depending on the player count will determine how you set up the decks of cards here, but it is from top to bottom. You start with the white ones, you move to yellow, and then finally red when the sun goes supernova. So let's take a closer look at these star cards. Now through the course of the game, you're going to see what's coming up in the next round, giving you a chance to plan in this round. Now at the top of the card, you will see a gravity number. This is how much your ships are going to be pulled ever closer to the middle. That gravity well is very strong. Now you'll also have burst points that you can help self-correct some of that, or you're just going to ride that gravity wave. Now the middle of the card is a number where all the current cubes on the board are going to be emanating from the star. That's how far they'll move on this particular round. And it'll also show what the first cube that gets emitted from the star, and it will also move that same amount. And below that, you'll see any new cubes that are ejected from the star. Now, through the course of the game, all the ships will be moving inward ever closer to the star, and all the energy bursts will be moving outward. And as you can imagine, collisions will happen. For the white cubes, various things here, and I really like how some of the different energy works with ships as if you land on them or if they land on you. Some really different twists here for sure. Now, the thing with white cubes is they are the most common, and as they move out from the star, they'll just harmlessly pass through your ships. However, if they do land on your ship, it will be destroyed, unless you spend a yellow cube to create a temporary shield, or you have a formation that you've created to give you a shield. There are multiple ways formations can happen in this game and help you. So we'll take a look at those in a minute. But white cubes do various things here. And if you've created a fulcrum, a collection fulcrum, that's another formation, that's 3 ships that allow you to gather those white cubes if they pass through you or if you land on them. All kinds of different things here. And then all these white cubes have the ability to be used for other things later in the game. You can spin them to do various things. Now, white cubes are not going to give you any type of victory points at the end of the game. Only the yellow and red cubes will do that. Now, if you land your ship on one of these white cubes, then you get to do something known as surfing. You're going to be getting an additional 4 boost points to move your ship just a little bit further. Now, the nice thing about white cubes and the yellow cubes is the fact that you have different things you can spin them on. Like I said before, you can get things like shields, or you can do additional burst points, or you can do laser blasts at your fellow players, or revive a ship if it's been destroyed. There's lots of different things. Spinning those cubes can really help you throughout the course of the game, but you have to be careful with the yellow cubes because they're also worth victory points. So yellow cubes are very important in this game, as you can imagine. And as they move out from the star, if they pass through your ship or land on your ship, then you just collect them. However, if you land on a yellow cube, well, then your ship is destroyed. However, you still get to collect that yellow cube. So red cubes or red bursts in this game are the most valuable, giving you 3 victory points per cube. So trying to gather those is a dangerous business though, and as they move out from the star, if they come in contact with your ship just passing through it or landing on it, totally destroyed. No questions asked, no way around it. They are super powerful and really hard to harness. Now, in order to gather these red cubes, you must have a ship in an adjacent orbit, and you have to have one of your other ships come up to that cube and land on it. That's the only way to collect those cubes. Again, worth doing because they're super valuable at the end of the game and very dangerous to deal with. Now, as you maneuver your ships around this star, there are 3 special formations to take note of. If you can put your ships in a line, 2 or more ships, this is known as a blockade. And other ships cannot land or pass through this area without being destroyed. And this is also how you have an energy blast or energy laser that you can fire. You have to spend a yellow cube to do so, but you can shoot one of your fellow players that are in front of you and destroy them. So it's very valuable to use throughout the game for sure. And especially as a blockade, it really works well. Now, also you can create a shield by putting 2 ships in adjacent orbits. This will allow you to protect yourself from those clear cubes as they land on you and then just bounce off. And then finally, you have that collector's fulcrum. If you have 3 or more ships that are positioned in different orbits, then when white cubes do come in contact with you, you'll collect those instead of them bouncing off and so forth. So again, white cubes are interesting because they don't give you victory points, but they'll give you different abilities and you can spin them throughout the game. So the progression of play here is there's 3 main phases for the players, manipulating your ships and so forth, and then the star gets to do its actions by throwing out more energy and moving it ever closer to the outer edge of the board. Now, the first thing you're doing as a player is picking power distribution, and there's some nice guide on the board and on your player cards, but in general, you have a couple choices here. You're going to be using 3 ships with each having a 3 burst point bonus, or you're going to be doing 2 ships with 4-point burst bonus, or a single ship with 6. Now, if you choose to just let gravity do its thing and pull your ships ever closer and don't use any burst points, well then you're going to be collecting a white cube. Now remember, these cubes are going to give you different abilities and things and ways you can spin them, including additional burst points. So having those cubes in hand is a good idea, and especially early on, it might be good just to let your ship be pulled ever closer, giving you some bonus cubes right up front. Now, the thing is, on your turn, on the second phase, you're going to be moving those ships based on the burst points that you've chosen, the power distribution, and the gravity that the star is pulling your ships ever closer to. But you have to pick. You can't do mixing it up. You have to either do all your burst points and then the gravity and vice versa. So that's the basics of movement for your ship. You're trying to configure it, right, to get the best possible cubes or valued cubes so you can get more victory points at the end of the game. Now, moving your ship 1 space forward is only going to cost you 1 burst point to do so. However, to switch orbits, go higher or lower, is going to cost you 4 burst points. It's very expensive to fight against that gravity for sure. Phase 3 of your turn is all about doing special moves. Now, one of the one I really like here is the orbit bump. You're going to have to spend a white cube to do this, but if you're in an orbit that's adjacent to another ship or a cube, you can perform this move to bump the cube or ship to another orbit, causing it to either be in line with other things later. It's definitely a good strategy piece for moving the different elements into orbits and areas that you need them to be for sure. And then there's things like the laser blast. If you've created that blockade, you can shoot at your fellow players. Also reviving your ships, bringing a new one out, putting it in the high orbit around the star. Lots of different options here, but this is where you perform your special moves. And then the star gets to do its thing. It's going to be moving those energy bursts ever closer to your ships. You have to be mindful again of all the collisions that happen and so forth. And then it's going to be creating new energy bursts, putting them out from the star. And again, there's the different levels of cards that are going to be coming into play. You've got the white, the yellow, and the red. And once the red all hits, or all the ships are destroyed, the final supernova has happened, then the game comes to an end, and you'll calculate all your score based on the yellow and red cubes that you have in your supply, and whoever has collected the most cubes will be the savior of their galaxy. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this game has a lot of interesting strategy around how you deal with the different types of cubes or energy bursts, and your fellow players, and how you maneuver yourself into different positions to gather the best cubes. Some really interesting back and forth here, spinning cubes at the right time to bring out new ships when they've been destroyed, because they will be destroyed. So you have to keep an eye on that for sure. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.